All right, let's see if I remember how to do this. Ah, there we are. All right, here we go. What's up, everybody, and welcome to Sounds Good Makes Sense, a discussion show for the World of Warcraft player. My name is Devilor, and it's been a minute. This show is, for all intents and purposes, the return of the Weekly Marmot, the series that I used to make for TankSpot, which ended over 10 years ago when I moved to California to become a community manager at Blizzard. Now, you've probably already noticed a couple things are different this time around, and I'll explain all of that in a moment. But first, I figure I should tell you why I'm doing this again. For a while now, I've been thinking a lot about getting back to YouTube. I've been really missing creating this style of long-form discussion content and literally daydreaming about what that would be like. I keep catching myself arguing a point in the shower or breaking down a complex topic in the car. The only things really holding me back were, do I have time for it? What sort of topics would I focus on? And if it's WoW related, how could I honestly speculate about things without having to dance around things I learned while under NDA at Blizzard? Like, a lot of the appeal to a show like this is analyzing information that's publicly available and using that to make an educated guess toward what might be coming in the future. And I can't really do that if I already know what's coming. I had also kind of stepped away from WoW for a while after I left Blizzard, and that had nothing to do with the game itself at all. It had just been my job for so long that everything WoW related felt like work. I just needed some time away to reset and come back to the game with the perspective of a player, not as a former employee, and find that passion again. And you know what? It worked. The announcements at this year's BlizzCon have me absolutely stoked for the future of WoW and Warcraft in general. You know, from the whole World Soul saga and announcing 3 expansions at once, to everything coming in the War Within, to trying new things in Classic with the Season to Discovery, while also implementing community requested features like self-found mode, to Cataclysm Classic, which I personally have a lot of nostalgia for. But also just the way everyone from Blizzard spoke about everything felt so much more genuine this go around. And I don't just mean Chris Metzen, although let's be honest, that man could talk about oatmeal and we'd all lose our minds. But seeing people like Ian and Taryn and Holly and everyone else who went on stage, these are all people I've worked with, and I consider several of them to be personal friends. They were all just so damn excited to be showing what they're working on in a way that I hadn't seen in a long time. And that's not to say that I think they've not been excited about previous announcements. It's just the difference between, here's this thing, I hope you like it, and I can't wait to show you this, you're going to love it. The team just seems so much more confident that they're heading in the right direction. And frankly, I agree. I'm very excited. Another huge thing for me that came out of Blizzard was the announcement of the warbands feature. And the reason that's important is because that's the last secret I had to keep. Now, I didn't have a lot of details, but I had learned that some system like that was being developed for a future expansion shortly before I left Blizzard. And so much community feedback and discussion over the years has been centered around making more things account-wide. It's a major topic, and I couldn't have been honest on my thoughts about it because I knew too much. And just never talking about account-wide unlocks would have been super suspicious. Like, why does he always avoid that topic every time it comes up? It's weird. He must know something. What does he know? But fortunately, they announced everything that I knew, and I don't have any other information about anything in development that I need to keep to myself anymore. What that means is I can speculate to my heart's content without having to worry about accidentally violating NDA. Great news all around. So coming off of BlizzCon, I was already thinking about bringing the show back. And then something happened with one of our cats that resulted in a 1 a.m. trip to the emergency vet. I'm not going to go into details here, and he's doing a lot better now. But that vet trip was pricey. So I started putting together a streamathon event to try to raise some extra cash with some unlocks and challenges for hitting certain milestones. And as I was planning all that out, I decided, let's just go for it. And I made the final goal, the one that met the vet bills were completely covered, to bring back the Weekly Marmot. And y'all destroyed that. I had planned out a week-long streamathon lasting 7 days. That goal was met in an hour and a half. So here we are. We're just gonna do it. Ah, but Devilor, I hear you say. This show is called Sounds Good Makes Sense. Why not the Weekly Marmot? And I'm glad you asked. Please get out of my head. The Weekly Marmot was a show created for TankSpot, which was a site owned by a company called Zam, which was later sold or merged, I'm not sure which, into a company called Fanbyte. So Fanbyte owns that content, which includes the name. I can say that I used to make the Weekly Marmot. I can say that I'm bringing it back in the philosophical sense. I can even call this show a spiritual successor to the Weekly Marmot. I just can't actually name it the Weekly Marmot. I don't own that. Besides, I'll never turn down a good opportunity to meme on myself.
Sounds good. Next question. I'm just embracing it at this point.
Would you say it makes sense?
I would say that it does make sense.
I appreciate that.
It does make sense.
At least someone thinks so.
Those with a particularly keen ear may have also noticed that I called it a discussion show for the World of Warcraft player, which is not quite the same as a World of Warcraft show, and that's intentional. It's been 10 years. There's a lot more to talk about in the overall WoW scene these days than just what's in the next patch, or what's the best class, or will they ever add player housing. So I always want to be sure that what we're talking about here is relevant and useful and interesting to the WoW player, but that may not always mean directly talking about WoW itself. This opens us up to secondary topics like how top guilds approach the world first race, or new tools available on sites like Wowhead or Raider.io, or even things going on elsewhere in the gaming and MMO industry that WoW players should be aware of. Now, realistically, this would have happened naturally with the Weekly Marmot over time anyway, but since we're doing kind of a reboot here, it felt worth clarifying. And finally, I did also mention that I've been away from WoW for a bit. Now, I have been playing again and starting to get my feet back under me, but it's going to take a little bit of time for me to be able to speak as confidently as I used to about certain topics, particularly those related to endgame content in Dragonflight. Fortunately, we've got a whole heap of other topics to discuss while I reacclimate, especially with Season of Discovery just starting. And hey, maybe an episode or two about my experiences as a returning player coming back to Dragonflight might be interesting as well. At any rate, we back. Format-wise, it's business as usual. We'll pick a topic each week, and I'll do my best to form coherent sentences about that topic. Same as it always was, just now I have a decade of experience working in the industry under my belt as well. As far as schedule, the current plan is to shoot for Thursdays, but with a little flexibility. For example, I'm posting this on a Wednesday because, well, Season of Discovery comes out on Thursday, and I'm going to be a bit busy. And I don't want to get too far ahead of myself, but depending on how this goes, I've got some ideas for other content to explore in the future. For now, if you've got any questions or topics you'd like me to hit, leave a comment. I'd love to know what you're thinking about. Of course, it's YouTube, so liking and subscribing helps a lot as well. The algorithm wasn't really a thing yet 10 years ago, so I've got some catching up to do, and clicking those buttons helps a lot. You can also find me across all social media, Twitch, Discord, and so on. I'm Devolore pretty much everywhere. That's DEVOLORE. And hey, speaking of social media, if you can help spread the word that I'm back here doing this again, I'd really appreciate it. We'll be back next week, probably talking more about Season of Discovery, since I'm going to be hitting that hard. Thanks for checking out the show, and I'll see you next time.